Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Saturday, and that can only mean one thing. We got the Pocket Change Market Report, and the date's June 13th of 2020. Welcome. If this is your first time here, the way that this works is what I do is I pull all of the interesting, legit errors and varieties that have sold on the secondary market. Most notably, these are coming from eBay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all of these finds. We're going to put it all together in one report. And really, we're trying to identify coins that people are finding in change, in roll hunts, and various other different types of hunts out there. A lot of these just come up, when you least expect it. And some of them look like damage. So being able to kind of tell the difference between a coin that is damaged and one that really exhibits a legitimate US Mint error is going to be important. It's paramount in identifying a coin that has some real value. So that's what I like to do in this video. In addition, the images that I'm using are all raw. We're using the images provided by the sellers, so that way you could kind of see some of maybe the best practices involved when they're selling these coins. Because taking pretty nice, sharp photography of coins because of their size is a huge challenge to a lot of people. All right. And oftentimes, the best method of doing so is going to be right on your mobile device. So it really depends on, the cleanliness of the lens. Okay. Don't forget to wipe the lens down when you photograph these coins, but there are also other variables at play that you need to know about. Things like focus and zooming and all of that great stuff. So we're going to take a look at all those as well. And finally, all the coins here generally are going to be raw, because the big idea is you find it in your change or in rolls, and then you turn around and sell it right away. Sometimes we don't want to send these to a third-party grading service or authenticator. You really want to hit just the easy money up front and forward. All right, so make sure you keep that in mind too as you're going through these coins. Very rarely will I talk about graded material, although we have a few items on the list that are graded, but it's apropos to bring those up, even though they are graded, just so you know that these really did come from change. All right, so I'm your host, Sean, with BlueRidgeSilverhound. Thank you for joining. As always, like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for instant notification, and most of all, enjoy the hobby. And this is what it's all about. So we're going to go ahead and jump in to the first coin on the list. Now, don't let the date scare you or fool you. Of course, this is the first date of the Jefferson nickel. This is a 38S. But what we see here on the obverse of the coin is some pretty nice lamination. Okay, it's all the cracks and just everything going on this coin gives it kind of like a little bit of attractiveness. Now, it is a tougher date, but these can be found on other dates as well. Okay, most notably some of the more higher mintage Philadelphia examples will have lamination much like this. Now, this is what I consider to be a small to medium-sized lamination for the coin. This one sold for $15. And keep in mind, all the sales are from the last 24 hours on this list. So that's the 38S Jefferson with a lamination error on the front of the coin. Okay, so the next one that we have here is a 1954 Lincoln Wheat Cent. The big draw with this one, obviously, is the toning on the obverse. Now, the reason why that this one is important on the list is people come across these toned coins on occasion, keeping in mind that this bronze composition is very easy to react to moisture and just the acidity of the materials that surround it. So a coin can be, say, in an old album, and it'll tone the same way. Now, on the reverse, you'll see a pretty unsightly fingerprint smudge that does hurt the value of coins in general, not just this one. But the rainbow tone right here sold for $27.55. You can find some really nice toned coins all the way up through the 80s. Okay, as long as it follows that kind of that bronze alloy composition, again, those react a lot more to the surrounding elements, and that's how you get the really nice colorization on this coin. All right, pretty nice one. So the next one that we have here was advertised as something completely different, but I could tell you this right now that this one looks like it was struck through a capped die. Most notably, something that's a little bit more, I guess, later stage, because you don't see any identifiable features on the obverse of that coin. So this one right here sold for $24.50 here in the last day. Yeah, I mean, that's an obvious strike through. And again, these are coins that usually get overlooked just because they appear damaged. But the one thing you want to keep in mind about this coin is that it is a copper-coated zinc planchet. It's a Zinkin, so it's post-1982. When you have a strike through like this, you're still not going to see any of the zinc core, which is really easy because the copper plating that's used on these planchets is very thin. So it won't take much to permeate through that, like a little bit of damage. You'll instantly see that zinc core, but this is definitely a strike through. I believe it's a die cap of some sort. Okay, so the next one that we have here is the 1955 Lincoln Weed Cent. I love talking about these because they still have kind of that that little bit of following. There's a core group that actually collects these in all different varying grades. But if you look closely here, okay, the image isn't too hot. It's a little bit out of focus, but these are the seller's images. This one is definitely a poor man's doubled die, okay, which usually occurs on the 55, but I've also seen it on other dates as well, like the 53. So this is simply die deterioration. It's not a real doubled die, but this one has been kind of popularized over the years, even after the release of the 55 dated Lincoln. People were kind of like wondering, oh, is this a legit, mint error? And then through the years, it has been affectionately referred to as the poor man's doubled die because nothing rivals the original 1955 doubled die obverse FS101, a coin in which at any given time can be worth $1,500 to $2,000, just like that. But this one right here, guess what? Sold for $50. All right, who would have thought? Now the seller did put out a starting value throughout the course of their auction of $50. It was not a buy it now type listing. So someone last minute put in the bid for $50, and there you go, instant sale. Okay, so here's one I always encourage folks to look for. Any double to die from 1972, the Philadelphia dated coin of the Lincoln Memorial is going to be a good find. Now this one right here is an FS102. There's about 10 or so different doubled dies for the date, but this one right here is incredible. There's a lot of doubling in the motto, "In God We Trust" on this one. You can see it just plain as day. It's very unmistakable. And I always tell people, if you need to confirm, make sure you get it under a magnifier. 8 to times power is suitable. If you guys don't have an affordable magnifier, I do have some for sale in the description box below the video. So just go ahead and expand that descriptor box open, and then you're going to see a bunch of links for some pretty relevant supplies to get into coin collecting. But this one right here, really cool looking doubled die. And then finally, okay, look at Liberty. You're going to have lots of doubling there. And even the date. Most notably on the 9, 7, and 2, you can see the splitting and notching in there. This is a tremendous coin. This one sold for $64.99, and the condition isn't too bad either. It's a pretty nice BU example. All right, so here's another one. From the very first year of the Presidential Dollar Series comes the John Adams. This is a 2007. It's a Philadelphia minted coin. And upon closer examination, you guys know that the some of the information is actually stamped into the edge of the coin. This one has the doubled edge lettering with the overlapping type on there. So as you can see, I mean, the pictures are pretty good. They're a little bit fuzzy, but you could see the doubling on this coin. These are actually quite common, all right? And to find one won't take a whole lot of searching at all. But keep in mind, this is only on the Philadelphia minted examples. This one right here, as a raw coin, sold for $29. All right, so that seems to be kind of in that range of the going market rate for these, somewhere, I would say between $15 to $30. So this one hit the kind of top end of the spectrum. Even graded examples can be had for about 30 bucks. All right. All right, another perennial favorite of mine, and one in which you guys should be looking forward to. So Denver minted coin lovers shouldn't feel out of place when they're trying to look for these. It's a 2005D. This is the Commemorative Bison Throwback Reverse. As you can see here, only this particular one has what they call the Speared Bison. All right, this is a very sought after mint error / variety. But what you see here is a die gouge. It goes all the way through the buffalo. On some of the earlier die states, you can actually see the spike coming out of the top of the buffalo, but you can see this line right here going through its body and it coming out at the bottom. This coin is very valuable. Not particularly rare. I've owned a few of these in my lifetime. But this one right here, a best offer was accepted of $228.99. Yeah, they actually do sell for that kind of money. Keep an eye out for these. All right, so the next one that we have here is a 55 Lincoln Wheat. On this particular example, you can plainly see it's got a nice straight ragged clip. It's the real deal because on this particular example, you see the Blakesley effect on the opposite edge. Okay, usually it's going to be a flattening of some of the devices, the rim. You can see it on not only the obverse, but the reverse of the coin as well. So this is not one that was clipped with shears or anything like that, or tin snips. But this one right here is sold for $5.25. There is actually a market for these. All right, how about some paper money time? So what we have here is a 1985 $1 Federal Reserve note, but as you can see, it's got some incredible something happening on the bottom right-hand corner of this note. And what it is this note, when it was being inked, one of the corners was folded over. So it actually adopted some of the inking from the reverse onto the front of the note, and it left a big square void on the reverse of this note. This is a very visually striking error, and it is very desirable in the paper money community. These particular notes are very coveted, and they sell for a lot of money. This example is a raw note, sold for $325. Of course, the best offer was accepted for it, but it's so rare to see these notes not graded. All right, so that's kind of interesting. Again, you never know what these notes are going to be all about till you've come across them. All right, so lesson number 1. If you are going to be taking photos, first of all, take it out of the 2x2 cardboard flip. That's important because you get a lot of not only reflection back into the lens of the camera, but it's also going to provide a lot of out of focus camera work. Okay, this is a great example. I mean, we can see it's a 1995 Lincoln Memorial, just barely now. But this coin right here, obviously, you don't want to get all limp on the photography part of things. If you're trying to be successful in selling these coins on the secondary market, whether it's on eBay, Facebook, Instagram, make sure you hammer down the photography. It's really easy to do with your mobile device camera. Okay, these cameras on these phones are actually well more advanced than they used to be. Okay, 10 years ago, they were pretty good. Now they're much better. But this one right here exhibits a die chip. It's not your standard BIE die chip. It is actually between the I and B in Liberty. Kind of different. But just because it's not a BIE doesn't mean it's not valuable. This one sold for $6. All right, so make sure you pull these out. If you find them, you have a pretty nice die chip, and there are collectors for these. Excuse me. All right, so everyone's favorite kind of oddball date, the 1943 zinc-coated steel cent, lives on to be one of the most important coins in history. Now this one right here is a pretty solid kind of like top end AU 58 Mint State 61 example. But the big draw for this particular coin is going to be on the reverse. So you have the beginnings of a die break cut. So you have this crack that goes from one edge on one part of the edge to the other side, and it ends on another corresponding area on that rim. Okay, so this eventually will end up falling off the die, this piece here, and it'll turn into a full-fledged cut. Now, what do they call these? This is actually referred to as a retained die break. All right, so the die has chipped or broken, but that piece is still sitting on the die, okay, until it falls off, and it translates into what you see here. Now, since this is an earlier progression of a cud, it's not as valuable as a cud, but keep in mind, these still have quite a bit of value. This example sold for $16.50. Pretty solid amount of money for a coin that's not all the way quite there, but it's interesting. All right, so what I tell you guys about bicentennial coinage, whether it's the quarter, half dollar, or the Eisenhower, they are all desirable with any measurable amount of error on it. Okay, keep that in mind. These coins are highly sought after. The Bicentennial dual date drummer boy reversed coin has a following all on its own, but once you integrate things like a rim clip, like on this particular example, now we're talking. These are coins that people want. There's just not enough of them out there to fulfill demand. So in this case, this coin sold for $41.75. In comparison, if you had the same clip on, say, a 1977 quarter, that coin would probably only be worth about $5 to $10. See the difference? Huge amounts of money, big time premiums for bicentennial coinage with errors. Make sure you look for these. It doesn't matter how minor or how major, they are all being sought after. All right, so yeah, Canadian coinage, they aren't immune to mint errors either. This is a regular basic composition 1975 Canada quarter that exhibits a pretty cool looking rim clip. It's nothing that's going to knock your socks off. I mean, this is something that's very identifiable right at a change, and generally will still get passed up by just the everyday person that's just looking to buy their cup of coffee with this thing. But this one right here, guys, sold for $18.36. Easy money. Just look out for them. All right, so the first graded example of anything I have on my list is relevant in the sense that that these are still being found today raw in your paper money. Okay, you go to an ATM, you pull out $100 or whatever the case may be. These do show up. Now, one that we see here, this $20 FRN, is a note that's missing the green Treasury seal under the big word 20 on the right side of the front of the note. All right, these do pop up. Usually raw examples sell for about $80 to $100. By that point, they're kind of beat up and worn and all that great stuff. This one right here, as a PCGS currency graded 55 PPQ, sold for $167.50. Okay, so this one's interesting. This is another later dated 1999 dollar bill, Federal Reserve note. This time we have some misalignment in the actual inking process. Okay, so the first print on this note, you can see the black seal and the district number, the 6, have all been shifted, but the green inking is perfectly fine on here. So keep an eye out for notes like this. They are incredibly valuable. It's a genuine US BEP error all on its own. This one sold for $120, best offer. And here's the reverse of the note. As you can see, it looks normal. Okay, so yeah, flip that note over and see what you got in front. And then we have another $10. This is another later one. It's not a colorized one. It's a little bit older, 2001 Federal Reserve note. That first print inking is misaligned quite a bit. So you can see the serial number, the black Treasury seal, the green Treasury seal, they're all misaligned on the front of the note. Believe it or not, these get passed up quite frequently. Some people just don't see a lot of issues with notes like this. It's like, oh yeah, the BEP screws up too. We're just going to go ahead and spend it. Well, if you did that, you would have thrown away $132.50. This is a worn note. You can even see a stain going through the face of Mr. Hamilton right here. So, you know, someone probably spilt some iced tea or something on it to get that. Or maybe it's a wallet stain. You just never know. But there you go. Another rather innocuous error that's worth a lot of money. Speaking of which, this one looks like just straight up dog meat. But I can tell you this right now. If you're throwing these back, shame on you. This is a coin right here that at first glance looked like road rash. But what we have here is a defective Planchet strike. Now, this coin here has the mint mark on the reverse, which would mean that this is a pre-1965 90% silver Roosevelt dime. So this one right here is an end of strip, just ragged, fissured out, you know, Planchet. You even have a piece of the Planchet that had fallen off. That's why you can't see a readable date, but you also see other bits and pieces on the front of this coin. But this is a tremendous error. If you're throwing these back or putting it in the melt bin, shame on you. This coin here sold for $41.75. So I have to say, very seldom do you see double struck coins quite like this not graded. That is incredible. Usually something like this would come from an old collection, all right? Someone who's not completely 100% on board with the whole grading process and Annex and NGC and PCGS. So finding something like this, even with these scratches on the front of the coin, is tough. But again, you never know where you're going to come across stuff like this. So this one right here, double struck. The second strike is about 15% off center. This is a legitimate coin. Some will probably ask, well, I think it's probably fake. Well, the number one sign that it is real is that the design is in relief. Okay, it's not incused and it's not mirrored. That'd be a different story. Second of all, the seller has 30-day free returns on this. Okay, no questions asked. If you're feeling hesitant about the purchase, return it. You have 30 days. This one sold for $754.20. Yes, they are worth that. Now here's a coin that'll stump most people, okay? And that's understandable. It even stumped me too as recently as about 15 years ago. But it's a 1958 D Lincoln Wheat Cent that obviously has something going on with it on the edge, okay? So you can see right here, it's all flattened out. It looks funny. It could probably pass as a mint error. The seller even went as to saying that it's a capped die breakage, which that wouldn't look like this. It wouldn't look like it at all. Upon closer examination, the coin in question has a pinched edge all the way around, and this is what it looks like. So if you find these, keep in mind what you have is a previous encased coin host. The example that you see here obviously has been somehow pushed and manipulated into the good luck encasement. These were very popular as recently as about 40 to 50 years ago. And usually you would put a quarter or a penny or a dime into a machine, you know, on a boardwalk somewhere or an amusement park, and it will push the coin into this aluminum encasement. And in the process, the machinery will do a tremendous amount of damage onto the coin to get it to fit in. And that's why these things don't come out very easily. I mean, have you tried pushing the host coin out of an encasement? It's one of the most kind of like labor-intensive things you could do. But yeah, that's what we're looking at for that. It's simply damage as a result of a previous encasement. Again, trips up a lot of people. Oh, by the way, that coin sold for $29.99. I have a feeling it's going to get returned. Oh boy. All right. So some of you probably have quite a few of these in your stack, your silver stack. It's a 64. This one is a Denver Minted Kennedy. It's 90% silver. All right. So, you either have a full roll of these or you got mini rolls or they're all loose in a bag somewhere. But make sure you check out your 64D Kennedys. There is a multitude of doubled dies and RPMs, repunched mint marks, that you could find for the date. Now, this one is one of the more relevant, important repunched mint marks. You can see it's a D over D style, the south over the primary. But this particular coin right here is the FS101, FS501 in the Cherry Picker's Guide. And it sold for $42. Okay, to a lot of people it's scrap. It's worth about $5.50, right? So 8 times value, silver medal value. It's incredible. Oh man, just dry throat here. All right, so we have a 69D. Now you guys remember this is on my top 5 list of coins that you need to sell now before they're worthless, essentially. But this one right here is also in the Cherry Picker's Guide as the no FG initials reverse. Furthermore, this one also has the floating roof. So what we have here is an over polishing of the die, and that's how you get what you see here. I mean, it's pretty obvious type of error, but these exist quite healthy out there in the marketplace. There's quite a few of these that you can find even in your change. They're not exactly rare. This example sold for $6.97. As you can tell from the overall condition, it's not fantastic. It's been beat up. It looks like it might have been cleaned as well. It's hard to say. Now this one's pretty cool. It's a 64D Washington quarter. Of course, you guys know 90% silver. This one has a pretty substantial lamination that's retained. And it looks like part of it's lifted off here. So you could probably peel off this whole entire other 45% of the coin to a dramatic effect. But again, these are worth more with the retained piece on there. This example sold for $48.75. Here we go, more Bicentennial coinage. This time we have a broad struck example. Again, keep an eye out for any sort of errors on these Bicentennial coinage, whether it's the quarter, half dollar, or the Eisenhower. Okay, they are all desirable in some regard because of the 1 year kind of effect to it. Now this one right here sold for $119.85. Pretty nice example. All right, we're down to our last couple here. So here's another graded note. Okay, this one here is a 69 $1 Federal Reserve note. This one right here, you'll notice that it has mismatched serial numbers. So it starts out as 6, and then the 7 and 8 are different. All right, so the second number in the string is different, but all the other numbers are the same. So make sure you look out for these. As far as like more modern notes, they're more noticeable in $2 FRNs, like 1976 and I believe 2003, and a few of the other dollar bills of the current age. You can find those on there as well. This one right here is a PMG graded 65 EPQ. It even says mismatched serial number. The note is valuable even without the grading, but if it's a high grade note, you might as well get it done. You're just going to get more money for it. The back of the note is normal. This one right here is sold for $299. Keep that in mind. And then finally, we are going to end it off on a roll of 1955 Poor Man's Doubled Die Lincoln Cents. So we've seen the one example that sold for $50 at the beginning of the broadcast, but this one picture gives you probably the best idea of how common these are. There is 50 of them in this paper roll that was accumulated and then assembled, and there you go. That's all she wrote, okay? And this particular seller had just the one image that you see on screen, no others, and he threw it up. You know, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm going to start it off at 99 cents and just let it ride for 7 days. When it was all said and done, this one roll sold for $55, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so that comes out to about $1 a coin. If someone really wanted to, not knowing what the grade is, you could take all the coins, you could image them, you know, probably list one every 3 days, and in about 2 months, you probably would have quadrupled or 5 times your money if you sold each coin for about $5 to $10. Pretty crazy, and I would have the feeling that that is what the buyer is going to do for this particular roll. But it's just crazy that, okay, yeah, how rare can it be? Well, someone sold a full roll. So there you go. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the Pocket Change Market Report. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. It sure was a pleasure today. So whatever you do, hopefully you guys have fun with your hunt for the weekend. And yeah, baby, we are almost in summer. It feels like summer out there already. So it's kind of like this weird, different age that we're living in. And the weather's getting hot. And it's like, oh yeah, what do we do? Well, we're going to hunt through coins because that's what we do. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for instant notification. And as always, Coinaholics, we are discovering together. So until next time, I will see you on the next coin video. You guys take care now.